We did not check the gender of our baby for the first 7 minutes of life, and it was the most raw and sacred experience. It felt like we got to meet our little human on a soul level, and I just wanted to share what that was like for us and also why we didn't find out the gender of either of our babies. I feel like in my pregnancies, so many people would ask, is it a boy or is it a girl? And whenever I would say, we don't know and we're not finding out, there was so much curiosity around it. And so I feel like people are curious why people don't find out, and obviously everyone's answers for this question are different. But I also know there are people out there that are contemplating, should we find out the gender? Should we not find out the gender? So maybe this will speak to you. But I do want to preface this video that I have absolutely no judgment whether you find out the gender of your baby or you don't. This video is not meant to be this is right, this is wrong. It's truly just what has aligned with our heart space and what our experience has been like for both of my pregnancies. And in the end, I feel like that's the most important thing, is for us to align with our heart spaces, to align with our family and ourselves and our baby, and do what's right for ourselves in finding out or not finding out. And so I feel like personally for me, I knew my entire life that I didn't want to find out the gender of my babies, which might sound really silly, but I do remember being a little girl and playing with my dolls and knowing when I grow up, I want to have a lot of babies and be a mom, and I don't want to find out the gender of my babies. And you know, my mom didn't find out the gender for myself or either of my siblings, and so I'm sure that plays such a big part of it. But also just naturally, I feel like I've always known that it's like instinctual almost that I don't want to find out. And then also when we found out we were pregnant with our first baby, I went for a walk with my aunt and I let her know that we were having a baby, and her first question was, are you finding out the gender? And I said no, and she said good. There are very few surprises in life that are actually surprises that you get to participate in, and I've been able to reflect on that conversation with her, and it's so true. There's not really many things in life that are actually a surprise that you get to actively participate in knowing it's a surprise. Obviously, there can be a surprise party or you can get gifts or this or that, but there's nothing where you just have these 9 months of mystery. You have no idea. You get to actively participate in choosing that it's going to be a surprise. And so her advice has really sat with me as well in not finding out the gender of either of our babies. And so between my mom and her and just my natural instinct, we have not found out. And I also have been really blessed with a partner who has been on the same page as me and honored that decision. And he also didn't want to find out the genders. So that's been like very, very special for the two of us. And you know, after we had our first baby, we had her at the hospital, and I have one baby right here that was born. She's 2 months old, so she's needed mama a little bit. But after we had my first baby at the hospital, I remember the last month just being like, what are you? Are you a boy or a girl? I had a dream that she was a girl, but I still was like, I just want to meet you so bad and just like know what your gender is. Like I was fine the entire 9 months until literally the last month, and the last like 2 weeks I would say were the hardest. And it's funny because after she was born, all of that washed away, and we didn't know what her gender was for probably 2 or 3 minutes, but we weren't even thinking about it because my partner and I were just in such awe that we had just created this human. And you know, eventually at that 2 or 3 minute mark, I was like, okay, is it a boy or a girl? But he just the whole time was in awe and never wondered, you know, what are you? Even though literally hours before we were still like, what is this? Are you a boy or a girl? And then when we had our second baby, which was just 2 months ago, we had her at home, and we didn't find out her gender for the first 7 minutes. And 7 minutes doesn't sound like that long, but when you're living in that moment, it is a really long time. And I was able to fast forward our birth video to see at what moment we found out. And in those first 7 minutes, it just felt like we were meeting this soul. I remember they had a blanket on her, like a receiving blanket over her, and I was holding her in the tub. And I just had this protective instinct. Like it felt like I was hiding her from everyone. I didn't know the gender. No one in the room knew the gender, but I just felt like instinctually, like I wanted to hide her. And I think that was just like a maternal instinct of like, let's just like meet this soul. We haven't known her gender for 9 months. Like, let's just keep it this mystery for as little amount of time and just like hold her and love her and protect her. And yeah, it was just such a powerful and sacred experience. And I remember in the moment, I almost felt a little bit silly, like, why do I feel like I'm hiding her? But I reflected on it after, and it's actually just so special. And a lot of times I think in motherhood, there's moments where we're like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? But it's actually this like deep urge and this like deep maternal instinct is the reason we're doing these things. And yeah, it's just felt so beautiful throughout pregnancy, not knowing the gender of our babies, because I feel every day I fall more and more in love with them, and I have no expectations. I don't know what they are. It's just pure love for this soul that continues after they're born, and then it just like continues to grow and grow and grow. And I've always felt ever since I had a baby that our children are our guides. And so I feel like my two daughters are my soul's guides. And it just felt so natural and beautiful for me to not find out the gender, not know during pregnancy, not know for a little bit after they were born. And that is what it has been like for me. And I'm so, so grateful. Thank you for listening. I hope that it resonates and that you're able to take something with you from this video. Sending all my love.